How are we doing, everybody? I'm Ron Swanson. Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. We're live here with Victoria, and we're going to be going into what can only be described as a mother's nightmare when children are handed over to monsters for one reason or another through the misguided actions of the courts. Victoria is going to take us through all of it and take us through her story. But before we do that, Victoria, how are you? It's very nice to meet you, and please introduce yourself to our side chat and the channel. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, Victoria here. I'm fine. Almost got thrown off a 2-year-old thoroughbred filly this morning, so luckily I managed to hang on. So I'm here. Yeah, I mean, I've done several interviews. I've been a campaigner for this issue for many years. I've helped a lot of women protect their children. I've helped a lot of women flee the UK, it's now been exposed. You know, my case has been, it happened 14, 15 years ago. And I feel it's only now that the real truth is coming out with Dr. Charlotte Proudman's book, where, you know, she's a family court barrister, so she's been able to put down everything that she's seen. The mothers we've been gagged, so this is why it's very hard to get these kind of cases in the public domain, but I've managed to expose quite a lot of what goes on in family courts, because I was named in Parliament back in the day by an MP, and it lifted the gag off my name, which made me a big threat to the establishment. And eventually, you know, they do come after you. They do still need to silence you and get rid of you. So, I mean, Ron, I sent Ron some notes. We can talk about what happened to me after I was named in Parliament.
Sure. Well, I tell you what, Victoria, you decide where you would like to, you know, take us from. If you want to go through your story and then take us into what is going on with these poor mothers, individuals like yourself, these women that you've helped flee the country. Take us through it all, if you can, Victoria, because it sounds like this has been a lifelong mission, if you get what I'm saying. I mean, I imagine you were tossed into this. Now it is what is driving you is justice for these individuals.
Well, you know, there's a lot. Child abuse is something that people that don't abuse children or have heard of anything to do with child abuse, they don't think it exists, because there's nothing more horrific than thinking that any grown-up person can sexually abuse a child. So the normal people, their brains aren't wired up to actually believe that kind of thing can happen. People. So when my daughter started at like 2, 3, 4 years old, started to disclose things that could only be sexual abuse of her, sexualization of her by her father, it completely sent me crazy. I have to say, it completely sent me crazy. And I'm from a loving, normal family. My dad was fantastic, and my mum, a normal family, 3 elder sisters. And so I'd never been exposed to any kind of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, grooming, nothing. But we were brought up that if there's a crime happening, we thought that you report it to social services, child protection, police, and we thought that, you know, the taxpayers paid all these people to protect society, protect children. So it's not like that at all. There's no child protection at all in the UK, and we've seen that because the grooming ads have been very exposed. We can see how all these girls were called child prostitutes, and they were being arrested when the police turned up into an apartment with 13 grown men, and then the parents that came to try and rescue their children were arrested. So it flips onto the people that are innocent. The system goes after those, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Well, Victoria, before we get to that, let me just try and process what it must be like for someone like yourself. Normal upbringing, no exposure to traumatic or abusive scenarios. And how do you process when your daughter comes out with the things that she did about her father? I mean, how do you process that?
Well, it was just very difficult. But the problem was, these men are joined with fathers' organisations, so they know how the system works. So I'm absolutely 100% sure that the father of my daughter was being advised by these fathers' rights groups, his own legal team, and it's a system. So they abuse their children just before a court hearing. So you as a mother report that disclosure to the police, social services, CAS, blah blah. You go through the whole thing, and then you go into court, and they eventually. I mean, my daughter was interviewed by the police, and the police said to me, "Your daughter hasn't been coached because she said too much in too much detail," and she had 2-hour-long interviews with the police. She was five years old, and I said, I said, sorry, excuse me, she hasn't been coached. No. I said, what coach? What do you mean? That's the first time I heard of this coaching. Well, you haven't coached her. Well, I said, of course I haven't coached her. How would I get a 5-year-old to remember 2 hours? And I wasn't in the interview, so I don't even know what she said. So eventually, in a secret court with a judge and all the establishment against you, the mothers, and they'll all tell you that it's in the book. It's in the book that Dr. Charlotte Proudman has written. They're called liars, that they've coached their children, and that they're alienating their children against the father. So this is where the fathers go for the jugular, and they go for residency of the child, and they always get it. So you're there as an innocent mother, desperately trying to protect your child. You've got all these court orders that are making you send your child to them unsupervised, and they're coming back with injuries, with distraught. I can remember my daughter came back and she slept for 17 hours, and I had to ring the NHS line. I said, I think she's been robbed. But then in court, the judges threatened that if you take them for any more medicals, or you ring anybody else, or you do anything else, they're going to take off you and put away. So it's blackmail. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your sound is breaking in and out quite badly. Can I ask you to? Can you see on this? If you push your finger on the screen of your phone, there's a little camera button. If you could turn off your camera, and we'll see if that improves what's called the bandwidth. And what we'll do is we'll do this. And if you can are you still there?
Yeah, here.
If it doesn't improve anything, I'll get you to put your camera back on.
Okay.
And yeah, it tends to happen if your phone has other apps running, or if you're not on your house's Wi-Fi, maybe you're on your mobile data and things like this. And even then it can be fixed and then come back. It can be a bit patchy with the phones.
Okay. Can
I am very
you hear
sorry
me now?
Yeah, if you just continue on, and if I've got to rudely interrupt you again and try something else from a tech side, we will do. But apologies for cutting you off.
Okay, so that all the people that supported me in the beginning, and it's for everybody, anybody that's supportive of the gets moved aside, takes the social worker, the police officer that interviewed my daughter, anybody nice goes. They just, your support system just disappears.
I mean, it's insane to imagine a world where a mother who goes with evidence of any form of abuse of one of their children, sorry, wouldn't get assistance with that. But to see the child handed over to their alleged abuser, it seems like an incredibly they can manipulate this system. And when you were saying there was fathers groups that you were saying were possibly allegedly advising on to do these things, I mean, do you believe that is the case, that there are groups that are giving advice over to perpetuate these horrible actions happening?
Absolutely. And the president of the family division would speak at these fathers' rights groups as well. The judging are there supporting these fathers' rights groups.
No, I can't. We can't hear you, Victoria. It is. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Mac. We can't hear you very well at all. I don't know what's going on, if I'm being honest. Give me a second, because
just on my wife.
Apologies, Victoria.
I'm on my one connection.
Let me check everything at my end too. Yeah, I should be running. I don't understand what's going on. Possibly, Bailey, but not at my end. I'm checking all of mine. Mine, it really shouldn't make a difference to how Victoria says. Unless I'm right in saying Victoria's sound was breaking up, right? And our camera was quite fuzzy, or was that just for me? Were you guys all getting perfect sound and perfect vision? Is it my end? Is it a Ron thing?
Are people making?
No, I tell you what. If you put your camera back on, and you don't worry about anything, it's possible. I think you're coming through perfectly. Yeah, her connection isn't great. Okay, so we'll keep trying, but don't worry, Victoria. We will figure it out, and if not, we'll do our best anyway. But again, apologies for interrupting you. And again, it's a technical thing, and it can't be avoided. So I do apologize about this, Victoria. But these
I can hear myself.
You can hear yourself talking. Yeah, no, it's
I can hear myself. I'm not going that mad.
It's maybe where you are in your house. Sometimes Wi-Fi's can be patchy and things like this, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. And if we can't improve it, we'll make a plan B. So don't worry.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, when judges make a judgment, now what people have to understand is, in a family court, it's secret to protect the identity of these children that they're protecting. So it's so secret that they threaten and put in court orders that if you say anybody in your own family, you could be in contempt of court.
That's crazy.
you're under so much fear, and they blackmail you. So when they've made their order that they make findings. Now their findings are probability, and it's one judge. You don't have a jury, you have one judge in secret that speaks at these Fathers for Rights groups. Okay. And so they can put in the order that, that it's a gagging order, so you can't speak to the press, but it's changing now because the press are allowed in. At the time, for me, the press were not allowed in at all, and it was completely secret. And a probability judgment is, it's like a probability, so they can just say, I think that she's lying and he's telling the truth. And I think that 51% is him telling the truth and 49% is her lying, or vice versa. So it could be just over half what he thinks, okay? And that the odds of 49-51 is high if your child's being abused. A 49% odd is pretty damn high.
Yeah.
You know, it's just under a half, and that's what a probability judgment is. And all evidence is ignored. So you can have evidence of your police interviews. You can have the perpetrator lying in police, and his family documents are different, so you can prove he's lying. But they just ignore everything. The police don't come into family court. They don't get involved because they said they need a judge to give them permission to get involved. So I said, well, get permission, bring in the evidence. You know, the most important thing is to protect. But one of the things in family courts is that the bread and butter of the local authorities is their state child trafficking. So they can for all the care orders that they get on children. And if you went into this and you looked at all those grooming gang girls that were put into local authority care where they share parental responsibility, you know, you can see that they use all these children to fill their coffers. So my daughter was on a care order. So they want to land the care order. It's very important, these care orders, because that's the money, the gravy train, where they can go to central government and fill their coffers.
Jesus. And when you say things are changing now, I mean, how many children are we talking about have fallen victim to this sort of system? I mean,
well, all you have to do is look at the amount of children that are in the care system, and you need to look at, like, back in the day, I got the figures of the police figures of missing children compared to local authority figures, and the police figures were really high, like 100,000, and the local authority figures were like 30,000, because the local authorities will hide the abuse of the children that they've got under their care. Just like, I mean, I can give you an example of the grooming gangs because it's all been exposed. We've seen what they've done. We've seen that the social workers were saying to the parents, oh, your child, she's chosen a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice, you know, and she's being gang raped by...
It's a lifestyle choice.
Well, that's what the social workers were telling the parents, that your child has made a lifestyle choice. And some of the parents were actually happy that the local authorities got care orders on their children because they thought that they were going to be protected by the state. But the opposite is true. The opposite is true. The children's homes where these girls were, the men were driving up to these homes, and these girls were going missing for a weekend. You know, so when you think that my daughter, for example, was the local authority shared parental responsibility, and they were supposed to be looking after her, and any disclosures after that, when she was taken out of my care, they should have acted upon it, but they didn't. I managed to get a lot of things because I had parental responsibility of my daughter. I got all her medical records, all her school records, and my daughter actually was in hospital with a life-threatening illness, and nobody bothered to ring me up to tell me. Like, she could have died and nobody bothered to ring me to tell me. And I said to this worker, what would have happened if she would have died? She said, oh, I don't know what would have happened to us if she would have died. I'm like, well, hold on, you're bothering about yourself and you don't really care one iota about me, the mother. You know, these mothers are just thrown on the scrappy. They're erased from the children's life. And, you know, they just worry about themselves and the money and, you know, how they're going to survive. And we're gagged and we're followed and we are arrested, and any other children that we have after that, because they've removed one of our children, it's an absolute easy picking to come for the next child, because then they can do their wonderful forced adoptions where they make billions in the UK, adopting children against the wishes of the parents and other family members.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that as well this evening, Victoria. Can we circle back for a moment? I want to get a better understanding of your story and your journey, if you will. I'm sure you probably went over this a million times with people, but if you wouldn't mind,
not really a million times, because the amount of press, journalists that I've spoken to, and the story has passed the legal, but then it's never been published because the editors, obviously, you know what the mainstream media are like, you know, so.
Yeah, they're bought and paid for. Sadly, everything trickles back to the same sources. It's insane. We've got a regular co-host of mine, John Wedger. Every Sunday we do a show called Crime Theory, and he was part of the police force whose job it was to arrest these monsters, go through all the harrowing evidence, watch all the video footage and all this monstrous stuff. And he got to a point in his career, Victoria, where he realized that the entire system was set up to facilitate the offenders and not to get justice for these children. And
yeah, I know John. I speak to John.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Maggie,
yeah.
Oliver.
Yeah, I think that's her name, right? Yeah.
Police officer. She's called Maggie Oliver, isn't she?
Yeah. I think it's Maggie Oliver. For some reason, Oliver doesn't sound right. It's definitely Maggie, right? It's definitely Maggie. It could be Oliver.
I was just listening to her today. She was doing a podcast with Sean, with one of the girls, one of the victims of the gangs, and she was a police officer. So the good people within the system that are trying.
Yeah,
John Wedger and Maggie are just two people. There's lots and lots of other people that are trying to expose the corruption and trying to protect the children and doing what their job is supposed to do. But they get moved, they get threatened. I know the headmaster of my daughter's school said, oh, don't ring the mother. Oh no, and they might come after your children. So when anybody gets threatened with having their own children taken, they walk away, they become silent, they protect their own little family. There's only a certain amount of people that actually do speak out. I'm one of them, but has it helped my cause? Me personally, not really. When you're fighting a government, you don't have a chance, really. So the only way I could protect myself was to move my self out of their jurisdiction, so that their laws, their kingdom couldn't reach me when I moved out of their jurisdiction. And I had to do that to protect unborn Haigh, because I was carrying another baby. Now that was really scary.
It's a lot to process, Victoria. I'm not going to lie. Like, it sounds so, I mean, obviously it's not, and I'm well versed in just how corrupt and horrible things are. And you spoke earlier about people's mindsets when we talk about subject matters of abuse and trauma and things that children go through. And I often refer to it as like holding your hand over a candle flame and your brain pulls your hand away. It's the knowledge version of that reaction, because we don't know how to process it all. I think that's been a major problem for a long time, is people shying away from facing the realities of it all. And it's decades later, after cases like Rochdale and these situations happen, that we get all the facts and we find out that there was these huge failings. There's this two-tiered policing, whatever we want to call it. But we rarely hear, or at least I don't hear about what you're discussing, the back end of it all, the court systems and what parents go through when they're fighting for justice for their kids, when they're trying to keep the children in the hands of the parent that they should be with. And it's truly shocking. It really is. And
well, you don't hear about it because the press don't touch it, and there's a few myths that they use against mothers. Like, one of the myths that I heard all the time when I was growing up: oh, the mothers always get the children. The mothers always get the children. And the mothers always get the children if the father is a nice guy, if he's not an abuser. If he's an abuser and he wants the children, he'll always get the children. You know, even Princess Diana was scared of losing her children. You know, we're not just talking about poor people, working class people. You know, I know many wealthy families where the mothers lost the children. So it's if the man wants the child, he'll do the system for him.
see, I think to a lot of fathers, what you're saying sounds backwards, right? Because I think for a lot of people, their impression and their reality is the kids do go to the mother. But when we add this layer of like horror to the situation, it's mind-blowing that that additional factor is what reverses the traditional methods of where the children should go. I mean, I think to everyone listening, to myself, it's so sickening to hear what you and so many other mothers have been through, but also what the kids have gone through. And
yeah,
it just,
well, they don't care. They don't care about the kids, because there's so many layers of the you know, the money making. And when this happened to me, obviously I did a lot of research, and I found Professor Joan Mayer in the States, and she'd researched over many cases in family courts, and she said there's over a 95% chance of the father getting custody when sexual abuse is mentioned. So that's in the States. In the last just couple of years, Manchester University have done a study as well, and it's the same. It's saying exactly what I'm saying, that women losing their children when they talk about sexual abuse of their child. So there's actually studies now. Back in the day when I was going through all this, there were no studies. There was the one in America, but there was no studies in England. There was no Dr. Charlotte Proudman at the time. You know, my own barrister said to me, I said, what's just happened? Why has all this happened? And she said to me, That's the system. What do you want to do about it? Start a revolution. So she was basically telling me that what had happened to me is how the system works. And that was my barrister. It just sent me crazy that these people didn't stand up and fight for these children.
I don't know how to process this, Victoria. Like, it seems like this is the one thing that everyone should be talking about.
Well, it should be.
Because
it should be, but nobody talks about it, because even my own family, really, that had seen, you know, I'm the youngest, so they'd seen me from birth grow up, so they knew exactly what sort of person I was. To then suddenly be told by everybody, social workers, police officers, and whoever else, that I'm lying and I'm not, you know, trustworthy, and I'm, you know, and so when you've got people in authority telling you something, you've been brought up to believe these people in authority over your own family members. I mean, it just completely sent my family. We were just all, we were all looking, what's going on, you know. And I mean, shall I talk about what happened when I became pregnant? Because they'd taken my daughter, and I was so.
I mean, I'm sorry I keep circling back to it, right? But your original story of when your daughter was taken from you, the like that moment, obviously, when your daughter's telling you what's happened, you're trying to process this. You start. I mean, how did you approach your partner after you found out all of this? The process you went through, because you hear a lot of mothers, right? And we hear horror stories when children talk to their parents about it, and some parents cannot process it to the point where they do nothing, you know. And obviously that's not what you did, but I think it's good for people to hear how you went about tackling that, because I think, sadly, for a lot of people, these moments are going to have to be dealt with, if that makes sense. And
well, I was brought up in a normal family, and I looked into what had happened to my daughter, and I said that is a crime. So I was in the strong belief that when you reported a crime to the police, they arrested the person that was committing the crime, they got prosecuted, and they got thrown in prison. So I just thought, well, any day now, he's going to be arrested, charged, and thrown in prison. And with me and my daughter, we're going to live happily ever after without this evil, abusive man that abused me as well. And it was like the film Sleeping with the Enemy. It was so scary. I was so scared because I didn't know what he was going to do next. And I was so scared for my life and my daughter's life. And I was saying to the CAFCAS officer, I think he could kill my daughter. And, you know, don't be stupid, don't be stupid. People, you know, you're too far-fetched. But, you know, you just look, there's one woman killed every 3 days in the UK. There's Claire Throssell, who was ordered to give her 2 boys by a court order to a man that she kept saying to the police, he can murder my boys, he can murder my boys. And that woman, honestly, I just feel for her. I feel for her. There's many other women whose children have been murdered by the father. You would think that after what happened to Claire, everybody in Parliament would just protect the children. You know, Claire's been campaigning for over 10 years, and nothing moves. The wheels of justice move so slow, and all these laws, we do have laws in place, passed through Parliament to protect women and children against violent men. And one of the laws is the non-molestation law, which was passed to protect women and children from violent men. But what they do, because of the corruption, they use these laws against the mother. For example, when they took my daughter from me, I obviously went crazy and I needed to make sure she was okay. So they slapped a non-molestation order on me to keep me away from my daughter, so I couldn't go anywhere near her. So it's like the lengths they go to antagonize you and to persecute you and torture you. And I saw my daughter in a petrol station when I was heavily pregnant, and I spoke to her. And, you know, I was kept in a 22 hours, heavily pregnant, charged with breaching a non-molestation order. They took it to a criminal trial, and the judge, I was trying to tell the jury the backstory, and the judge kept stopping me, and he kept directing the jury, we are here today just to see if she breached this law. And I was desperately trying to tell this jury, but they just all, I wasn't very impressed with the jury anyway, because it was as if my character, even though I'm really good character references from quite famous race people, it's as if they were kind of thinking that, you know, women aren't bad, but they are mad, you know. So we're all like painted with the same brush of crazy mad women, even though they've made us our child, they're us, you know, they're charging us, and then to it's been
Hang on one second, Victoria. Hang on. I think you're breaking up for you guys. I'm just double checking that everyone can hear you, Victoria. Hang on. Because you were breaking up really badly for me. I just want to double check everyone can't hear. Okay. So we just need to give it a minute, Victoria, and let your internet connection stabilize again. And while we're doing that, everyone, if you can like and subscribe, please push this out. I can't remember if I asked Victoria for her link, so I will make sure I get them off Victoria and put them in the side chat for the mods and in the description. But this, oh yeah, badly breaking up. We'll give it another few seconds, then we'll try again, Victoria. And again, I apologize for cutting you off again. It's just better to cut you off and let the internet stabilize.
Maybe I should connect to my Wi-Fi.
Connect to your Wi-Fi. Yes.
Should I move near to the?
Oh, near the Wi-Fi. Yeah, try that. Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
Let me just over here. Hold on a minute.
Oh yeah, Ron's fully on board with Victoria's story and what she's saying. It's just like I'm really struggling to process it all, because if you ever wanted an example of everything that I've been speaking about, everything that this channel's been doing, everything that John Wedger's spoken about, all of it, it's this. This is madness. Everything that I'm hearing about this is absolute madness. And the fact that this system is so well versed and these groups are able to assist these abusive monsters in continuing the destruction of these children's lives. And the fact of the matter is, Victoria's telling me the story, and there's about 30 odd people in the side chat who are going through or have been through or have known someone who's going through the same thing, which is the maddest statistic ever. Other than if I done a live stream about people who smoke cigarettes, there would probably be, that would be the only live stream where more people in the side chat would speak up and be like, oh yeah, I've smoked a cigarette. It's mad. I cannot believe how broken, well, let's no. I can't believe how well they have got their machine oiled to facilitate all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody says the system is broken. No. This system is working exactly how they want it to work, because they're able to just take, like, can from a baby, a child from its protective mother. It's so easy.
It's insane. And
the worst thing a mother can do when the authorities start these procedures against these protective mothers, the women just don't need to report anything. Don't get social services involved in your life. Don't report anything to the police. You know, there's just, you've just got to stay low.
That is wild. I mean, I knew it was bad, right? And you know, it's so much, for years, I've heard people say, hey, you should talk about forced adoption. Hey, have you heard about this that goes on with the and I imagine all of the things that people have been trying to talk to me about for years has been this subject. And I think this is really the first time where I'm able to sort of pay attention to this. But this is crazy, Victor. I mean, what you say that there's been people that have been campaigning for over a decade for years on this, and they're getting absolutely nowhere. The media aren't going to take it on board. The media aren't going to support you. Have you found that the social media, you know, era or shift has assisted in at least taking some steps forward, even if it is just educating people?
Well, you know, I've had a lot of bullying from the system. You know, they do try and warn you and scare you off, and do come after your children. So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're sounding a lot better now, Victoria.
Right, it's probably because I've moved nearer to my thing. So when I was 24 weeks pregnant, so I was doing all the appeals. You see, if you look into my case, the judges will say, oh, she didn't appeal. But less than 2% of appeals are accepted to go through to appeal. So I spent a lot of time on appeals. And when my pregnancy became over 24 weeks, that's when social services get interested, because you can have a live birth after 24 weeks. It's a baby. It's not a fetus. It's then becomes a baby. So then I've got all these.
How many
24. 24.
Aha. Yeah.
So then I started to get all these letters from social workers saying that you need to come in for an appointment because we are worried about unborn Haigh. And I'd got these letters, and bring a solicitor with you. So when they tell you to bring a solicitor, they can control all these solicitors, because most of these family law solicitors majority of their work is from the local authority. So they're in the pocket of the local authority. So they want you to turn up with one of these solicitors because they can control them. So, well, I just thought, oh my God, now this is really scary. Now I feel like I'm in some kind of film, you know? So, and I was working with MPs and a guy called Ian Josephs that lives near Monaco. And he wrote the book Forced Adoption. And I was working with the late Christopher Booker. Now, if anybody wants to look back into my case, Christopher wrote a lot of articles on my case when he was living. He had his own column in the Telegraph. Was it Sunday Telegraph or Saturday? I'm not sure, but
Okay.
you know, he wrote about a lot of cases, and eventually he got shut down with his. They said to him, "You can't write about family court cases anymore." But back in the day, there was like me, John Hemming MP, Christopher Booker, Ian Josephs, and you know, couple of others, and we were really getting traction, you know. But then when they started to come after me, and I got arrested when I was pregnant, and I was kept in a cell, and Christopher was reporting all of this, and then at 35 weeks pregnant, I got a letter from the local authority to give. They gave me notice they were going to put me in prison and give me notice. And I had to appear at the High Court in less than 48 hours later. I got the letter on a Monday evening, and the court hearing was Wednesday morning in London in the High Court. Bearing in mind, I'm 35 weeks pregnant, or 34 weeks pregnant. And John Hemming rang me, and he said, they're trying to put you in prison. And I said, what? Why? What have I done? And he said, well, you know, the meeting you came to in the House of Commons, the local authority have just rung me for the tape. And it was the president, the chairman of CAFCAS, that was at this what's it called? All parliamentary meeting in the House of Commons. And so they got the chairman of CAFCAS, Sir whatever his name is, and there was 100 disgruntled people that were going through family court, and that they were allowed to ask him questions. So I stood up, and it was actually the same day that I'd seen my daughter in a petrol station and spoke to her. I was on my way to London, and I stood up and I asked this CAFCAS man to help with my case. So what happened, he promised that he'd help me. He rang the Doncaster CAFCAS and said, who's this woman, you know, talking about a case? We need to shut this woman up. So that's when they filed to put me in prison. And they were trying to get the tape of the meeting from John Hemming, because they said that I'd breached the non-molestation order, or the gagging order, you see, because I was speaking out. But you have a constitutional right, when you have a grievance with the state, to speak in Parliament, and you're protected. It's your constitutional right. So John was all upset that they were trying to put me in prison secretly, in my condition and against the Constitution. So that's why he named me in Parliament. And so when he rang me, and anyway, the court hearing on the Wednesday, they blackmailed me into writing a letter to John Hemming to say, oh, you know, I don't want you to name me in Parliament, you know, please don't name me in Parliament, blah, blah. So anyway, I wrote the letter because they didn't put me in prison, but I did turn up with a £10,000 legal team that cost 10,000 for 24 hours work, by the way. And they said, oh, we don't want to put Miss Haigh in prison, when they saw my legal team, you know. So it was absolute. I'm like, what? I'm in my third trimester. And anyway, they didn't put me in prison, and I decided, with advice from John and everybody else, to leave the country. So I was at the ferry port in Liverpool. I packed all my stuff, drove to Liverpool, and I was about to get on the boat, and it's all the loudspeaker, you know, the boat's about to leave. And then I got a phone call. It was news night. And they said, oh, we'd like you to come on Newsnight tomorrow. I'm just about to get on a ferry to leave my home country to flee because I was frightened, petrified of.
Honestly, it sounds like we're talking about a spy movie, right? It sounds like you've got
Exactly.
government information and you're fleeing, right? But we're talking about a mother trying to get justice for her child. Like, why are we working with a system where you are fleeing the country? It's so beyond.
Well, because the thing was, they had my unborn baby earmarked for taking into care, you see, because then they get a care order, so it's all about the money. And the newborns that they go into the labour suite and take over 200 newborns a year from women that have just had a baby. They come in and remove the baby, and they say to the hospital, because the hospitals are NHS, so they're controlled as well. They can't say, oh, you can't come in here and take a baby, because they're all controlled.
Just to be clear,
I do know one mother.
There's someone whose job it is. They get up in the morning, they have a shower, they put on their clothes, they get in their car, and they drive to hospitals to rip newborn babies from the arms of their mother, and off they pop. And that's somebody's job. Somebody is getting paid to do this. And I mean,
yeah, but they don't just go, it's not just the social workers, they'll take a number of police officers in with them as well. There's a whole gang of them.
I bet they do.
So
can
you still hear? Can you hear me, Ron? Okay.
Yeah, Ron's getting triggered now, Victoria. I'm not going to lie. Like, Ron's going to get loud and animated. Okay.
Just hold on. Let me just carry on, because it's very important.
Good. You carry on. I'm going to mute myself.
This happens, and it's severe, and it's torture for these women. So I got on the boat and I went to Ireland, and I went to the south. So I had a friend who had property there. So I stayed in a house. An English social worker, the one that was writing to me, telling me to go in and have a meeting with a solicitor because they were worried about my unborn baby. When they knew I wasn't, they were my address, they rang the police. A social worker, I'd never even met this woman. She rang the police and reported me missing. So when I was in Ireland, I had 6 police officers come to the door saying that they wanted to check if I was okay because I'd been reported missing. You know, I'm about to give birth, and I'm hunted down by UK establishment, the state. They're hunting now. They're hunting me. When I got to Ireland, I went to the hospital to meet the social worker with a letter from the MP to say that the state in England were overstretching their powers, and that this mother is just here in Ireland just to have a baby in peace. And you know, the social workers in Ireland, God, they were just so lovely. They were just so kind and just so helpful and so lovely. That the English social workers then got a hold of the Irish ones, and they were trying to tell them that this woman is a danger to the unborn baby, and you need to protect the baby and all this. And the Irish were just looking at me and they're saying, those lot over in England, they're bonkers. What are they doing? And they told the Irish social workers that they'd faxed every hospital under UK jurisdiction that if I came in to have a baby, I was a danger to the baby, and they had to inform the social workers straight away, and that baby needed to be taken at birth.
I mean, I don't even know how to process this. I mean, I'll be honest, Victoria, this is shocking. It's disgusting that you and other parents and children have gone through all this. I was not prepared for the gravity of this story and the way it was going to hit me. I'll be honest. Now, you've gone to Ireland. You're fleeing the government. This is some Jason Bourne level stuff here, okay? Because the government thinks you're a risk to your baby.
Well, they think that, I don't think they think I'm a risk to my baby. I think that they can abuse their power and do what the hell they want. They knew damn well I was a risk to my baby. They knew 100%. That I was a risk to them.
Yeah.
I was a risk to them because now I've been named in Parliament and now I have no gagging order on me and now I can speak. And that was what worried them, not me being a good or bad person, mother, or, you know, they knew I was highly intelligent and were a few steps in front of them. And they didn't like it that I could potentially expose their cartel, their corruption, their baby trafficking, their state child kidnap, which is what it is. You know, you can't call it anything else.
Honestly, Victoria, the side chat is just going mad. Like, so many people have either been through this, they've either gone through this, they're going through this, they've had it happen, they've been failed by social services as children, they've been failed by parents. It is shocking how many people are going through this.
Well, what I find is shocking is that these journalists and these editors aren't stopping all of this, because it can be stopped. But the problem is, as you well know, the amount of money, you know, you've got judges as directors on adoption agencies, you know, you've got venture capitalists on foster agencies. You have 2 social workers that built up a foster agency and sold it for 100-odd million. You know, you've got jobs for the boys. You've got the old boy network. You've got all the paedophile rings. I mean, they're all taking a slice of this cake. And they have no heart. And the things that people do for money, you know, I'd rather just be poor because I couldn't do it.
Do you think the system, right, with it being so outdated as well in the UK, that even trying to explain the extent of all of this is massively complex because of the levels of the government, the social workers, these secret courts that you're talking about, the police, all of it. And then you add on top of that the gagging orders. Like, how many people are out there with gagging orders that can't talk about this right now? Like,
all of them. You look at the super injunctions. There was at the time, back in the day, there was like 273 super injunctions or something, and like 85% of those victims of family court, and the rest were the rich men that were silencing, you know, because Ryan Giggs got named at the same time as me. And so some of the gag super injunctions were like rich men trying to not get found out of having affairs, you know, but the majority of those super injunctions were victims of family court, because I was one of them. And that's why John Haigh named me. And that's why when, you know, I was arrested and charged with breaching a non-molestation order, you know, I got remanded in prison, and I went to prison with all my, you know, at the time, you know, nice clothes, Armani suit on, and the hotel reception, the prison reception, it's like a hotel. You check in, and she was looking at me, and she's like, "What have you done?" And she looked at the paper. "You've breached an order, and you've got a baby, a newborn baby in Ireland, and you've not got any previous convictions, and You've got no mental health problem. You've got no alcohol problem. You've never been in prison before. You've never been in trouble. You've never, what are you doing here? And it was after that John Hemming publicised that I was a political prisoner. They had to lock me up, to shut me up, because I was not going to stay silent. And the only way they could do it was to criminalise me, put me in prison, not let me talk to anybody. I was in 11 national newspapers when I got my prison sentence, and I received the longest ever prison sentence for a breach of a non-molestation order in the history of non-molestation orders, and I got 3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
How in the hell, right, can any rational person listen to this? Because I'm really triggered. Like, I'm really holding it together, Victoria. I'm not going to lie. Like, and it's only out of respect of how much more information I want you to get out that I'm buttoning it, right?
Well, this is not even, I haven't even scraped the surface. This is not even the tip of the, it is the tip of the iceberg. There was so much harassment by the police, because the police are the social workers' henchmen, and they didn't want they absolutely hated it when John Hemming named Doncaster local authority. Oh, you know, because normally they get away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids, you know, and they get away with it. But I was adamant I was going to expose these people.
On a Sunday, Victoria, I do a show with John, and I'm trying to do shows after that. Maybe we could talk about breaking this all down into chapters and putting this out every week, because I don't want you to rush through everything. I need to know everything about this now, because this is mad. Like, there's no way a rational person can hear your story and not think there's something really fishy going on here. Like, there is something going on to facilitate mothers, right, having their children taken from them and put into systems, like you say, for cash money, to facilitate PDFs, for all of these reasons. And then they slap gagging orders on you. Like, I don't, like, this is like, I don't even know. I'm speechless. Like,
well, it's not just gagging orders, Ron. It's non-molestation orders. It's no contact orders. Now, I was begging for them to bring my daughter to see me in prison, and there was a woman in prison at the same time that a young child had died, and she'd been the cause of it, and she killed her children, and she was even allowed to see her other children in prison, but they wouldn't let me see my child when I was in prison. And they were trying to, because what happens in prison, they slip things under your door, like, and they slipped this thing that I had an appointment with the nurse, and a judge, it's out of his power to make you have a psychiatric assessment. It's not within his power. So when I was in prison, the social worker jumped back in, rang the prison, and said that she needs a psychiatric assessment. It's been ordered by the judge, which was a lie, because it's out of a judge's power to order that. So I got this slip under my door. You've got an appointment with the nurse. And I went, right, okay, why have I? There's nothing wrong with me. So I toddled off, because you can't just wander around a prison. you always have to be going to an appointment, or, you know, it's a very strange place, a prison. Anyway, so I got to the nurse. She said, "Oh, yeah, you're here for a psychiatric assessment." I said, No, I'm not, because I don't want one. Oh, well, your social worker said that the judge said that you need one. I said, listen, forget all of these tactics, because I've had enough of all these tactics. If my private doctor decides that I need a psychiatric assessment, I will pay to have a psychiatric assessment privately. Okay? Right. Where's your manager? So they I mean, I was like, now, if you had a lower intelligence, you'd be falling for all of this. And before you knew it, you'd be, you know, in a psychiatric ward or something. But because I had the intelligence and I'd seen enough already by this stage, I knew their tactics, you know, I knew what they were doing. And luckily, I did have a private doctor because I was involved in horse racing, and when I had bad falls, I needed to get medical help quickly. So I had a private doctor, and he rang me up one day and he said, social workers have tried to get your medical records from me. And I said, oh, so what happened? He said, well, I said to them, I will only hand over your medical records if a judge orders it, which a judge can't do. But many of these social workers get many of these women's medical records corruptly by doing the same thing, you see. And can you imagine, like, you know, like a lot of teenage girls suffer with anorexia. It's none of their business. This is private information, but they will use all of this information against mothers to steal their children. Oh, when she was 17, she had anorexia, you know? And I know that for a fact because it happened to one of my, I'm saying friends, a lot of these women I became connected to because I was speaking out, so they all contacted me, you know, and I've stopped women killing themselves. I've bloody gone through a case with a mother that was going to lose her baby because it had fragile bones, and they said that she'd injured her baby, but actually she had low vitamin D in her blood and the baby had rickets. And I went through hell with this mother, trying to get her. Anyway, she rang me one day. Oh, I've won the case. I've kept my baby and I've got my other daughter back, you know? So I put a lot of effort into trying to expose and help other mothers. And one of the journalists said, we'll do the story, but I need 50 other mothers. I got 50 other mothers within 2 days and they never did the story.
Jesus. So there's just no hope. There's just no hope.
Not when the wheels stop. Not when the wheels start moving and they're homing in on your children. There's not a lot of hope.
Gee, I mean, I'll tell you something. I want to be talking about this a lot because if there's as many people as you say out there, like you and the side chat are saying, this needs, like, I mean, they're saying that, I mean, what can we do? But we've got to do something. I mean, I'm really shocked, Victoria, that you've been treated this way, your children have been treated this way, and that it's so common. The side chat is just alight with people that can relate to this. And this is all over the world as well. This isn't just here. There's people from other countries that are saying it's the same where they are.
Yeah, because I worked a little bit with the Women's Coalition, which is based in the States. Cindy Dumas, she reported the abuse of her son. I mean, this case is well before my case, and she sent her son underground, off the radar, so that she protected him from the abuse. And I think she actually got her son married to a woman when he was 16, so that the state had no control over him anymore. So yeah, she started the Women's Coalition, and they're putting a court case together to sue the government in the States, which we should be doing in the UK. Because me as an individual, I've gone through so many lawyers to try and help me. I've even been to a lawyer here in Paris, and she came over to meet the social workers twice. And you know, she was absolutely shocked at the corruption over there as well. On the article there, you can see that I've got a lawyer to work for me pro bono, but he still needed money for court applications and another, like, you know, this $250,000 goes nowhere when you're suing the government, because they don't just roll over and have their belly tickled. They fight and they chuck everything. They chuck, like they did with me in 2018. They kept putting new applications in. They fought dirty. They fight dirty, even if it's children involved, because I've seen it with the mother with the baby with the rickets. And she was called Nikki, and they lost a child way before mine to forced adoption. And I'll find the case. Because the judge said, oh, after so many years, oh yeah, well, now we know you're innocent and you didn't harm your baby. But the baby settled in the adoptive home, so we're going to leave it there. And I just can't think of anything worse.
Wait.
If anybody's listening and they can remember that case, I'm sure she was called Nikki, and three other children, and they adopted her baby.
The government
and then they
admitted that she was innocent.
Yeah, she was innocent.
And that,
yeah,
but
somebody will remember this case. I'll find it after.
And how long have the kids been in the adopted family?
It was just one. It was the youngest, I think. Couple of years or something, you know, and they just said, oh, you can't have your baby back.
That is, how do you process that? Like, how do you deal with that? Oh, we know you're innocent. Sorry we took your kid off you in that, but you're not getting your kid back. How? Okay, look.
Well, this is how draconian, archaic these judges are. These judges, you know, they I couldn't be like that. I'm just going to try and turn a light on because it's getting dark here.
Listen, Victoria, once you've solved that, should we move on to the forced adoption side of things? Because
right, forced adoption.
Yeah, just because I'm not triggered enough by the first set of topics today, Victoria. Let's slap on some of this and really push me over the edge, because this is.
Okay, so there's women in the UK that have had. Right, let's just say if a child's brought up in care, they get pregnant. The local authority will take the baby because they say they can't be a good parent because they've been brought up in the care system. So they'll take the baby and they'll adopt it. So that woman will have another baby, hoping that she can keep that one. No, they take that one. And there's women in the.
You're a kid who's grown up in care. You've now grown up. You're now an adult, and you go to have a child. And because you were brought up in care, they're taking your baby away from you. Is that? Am I right in hearing?
Oh yeah, that's the most common. That's the most common reason why they will take your baby and adopt this baby without your consent. Another reason is there's so in domestic violent relationships. I know one case and she's a friend of mine because I know all of this. She had a rape case in a criminal court. At the same time, she had a family case in a family court. And the man was found guilty of rape and he got 6 years in prison. And the family court took her 2 children and adopted them against her consent because she was a victim of rape and that she didn't protect her children against this violent man.
No, what? Like, she won her R case.
He got put in prison. He got a 6 year sentence.
And out of the blue, they went, because you were a victim of this horrible act, we're taking your kids from you. Is that what you're saying?
It happens all the time, Ron. It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
This is madness.
They said to me in court. They said to me in court, if Miss Haigh believes her child's been abused, then we can say that she failed to protect her child. Well, they had a like heads you win, tails you lose, that kind of scenario, because they couldn't let me win anything because I was trying to protect her. And then when they forced me to say I had that many court hearings, it's mind-boggling. But one of the court hearings, they made me retract the abuse that I thought it didn't happen, because the other side to it was, if I didn't retract that, they would take her immediately and give her to him. So you tell me any mother that's put in a situation like that that's not going to retract. I had no choice. And then later down the line, they used that against me to say that I didn't protect her. He thought she was abused. Honestly, it's so like, let's just keep battering this woman with a baseball bat. We'll just batter her, and we'll just just use her and abuse her and just take her through all the. They seem to get satisfaction from this kind of treatment of somebody that was there with one thing in mind, which was to try and protect her child from sexual abuse.
I just can't get I just can't understand how all of this has been going on for so long, and like I've been so unaware of it. I mean, it's shocking. And
well, one of the cases, well, there's a few cases that stick out, and Christopher Booker wrote about a good few cases. Well, there's a few. We do need a series, Ron. We do, because I can't possibly go through all of them. Nikki and Mark Webster, thank you. I just sent that. Victoria, somebody just sent me a message.
Anyone else that you know that wants to be anonymous, that wants to write a statement, that you want to read out a statement from them, keeping their name, anybody at all that you want involved in this on the platform to raise awareness, I'm 100% on board, just so you know, because I'm not going to be able to sleep at night, Victoria, tonight. This is, I mean, how can anyone stand by and say that this is not being orchestrated to facilitate access to children? Okay. Oh, you're an hardware victim. Let's take your kids off you, slap a gag order on you, and we'll all just move along with our lives. And this is just how it is. I cannot fathom it. But you know what? when we talk about patterns of behavior and we look at what happened to the victims of these grooming gang families, the amount of mothers and daughters and sons we've heard from where they've phoned the police and been told, hey, there's nothing we can do about this certain demographic of individual that wants to prey on your children. It's interesting when you look at data points that facilitate access to children, remove the rights of the parents, and seem to facilitate access from these monsters. It is a repeating patterns of data, and this now is the most infuriating one. This is the most infuriating thing I have ever heard in my life. It's one thing when you hear John Wedger talking about judges and all the rest of it, but when we hear the victims, the mothers, talking about the systems that we hear preached as these safety nets that we're meant to put our faith in. Weapons.
Oh no, there's not one child safe in the UK. There's not one child safe. There's no child protection. There's no child protection in the UK, and I've been saying that for many, many years. And you know, I want to say,
I actually need a whiskey. Give me a second. Right, sorry. Keep going. There is no child protection. You're damn right. There's not.
There's no child protection. Anybody that does try to protect children within the system gets shoved out. Basically, everybody that supported me got moved. The social worker that said to me, your daughter's given me disclosures of child sexual abuse by her father. I'm going to stay on this case to the end.
Keep talking, Victoria. I'm just getting a bloody... Just give me 1 second. I'll tell them to go away. Just give me one... Sorry about that. That was sadly unmissable. Now, listen. Let's just dial it back a second, right? Because Ron, and I apologize, Victoria. I've worked for years exposing horrible people that do horrible things to children, right? And I often say I go after established groups. I go after communities, because if you can invest 10 hours in something and take down 10 people or 50 people rather than just one person, that's why I tend to go for the groups. This is the biggest cartel I've ever heard of in my life, Victoria. A global legalized cartel of legislation and government departments that is facilitating the transportation and listen,
it's traffic. It's state child trafficking. There's, you know, I came to this conclusion many years ago, and that's why they come after me, and that's why I don't live in the UK now, because you know my story. It's quite a long story. You know, I was in prison for however long, and when I came out, oh gosh, I mean, it's just I really look as survival. You know, I've always known, you know, if you know that you're telling the truth, that gives you it gives you strength, because you know, no matter how much everybody else tries to ruin your credibility, ruin your career, you know, arrest you, threaten you, all the rest of it, you know, I just moved out of their jurisdiction and kept a low profile. And but all those press articles, if you Google me, you will see that they've called me a liar in all the international press. I'm a liar. I coached my daughter to say she was sexually abused. I got a 3-year prison sentence. All that looks really bad. It looks also really bad. Well, but
also, the title of non-molestation order, right? Like, can we talk about I mean, it's one, a no contact order makes sense, right? But using the terminology like that, I mean, how,
Well,
sorry,
as I said, the non-molestation order was passed through Parliament purely to protect women and children from violent men. But the local authorities flipped it to use it to keep innocent protected mothers away from their children. That's what they used it with me, to keep me away from a child. And my partner's children gave a card to the vicar to give, so that the vicar could give the card to the headmaster at school, so that the headmaster could give it to my daughter, and it was either a Christmas card or a birthday card. I got arrested and charged for breaching the non-molestation order by passing a card to a vicar indirectly. It wasn't even me. I got charged and I had to accept a suspended sentence or something, you know? Whoops. Sorry, I've just dropped my phone.
Yeah, I promise next time when we talk about this, Victoria, I'll be better prepared to deal with the information you're giving me. Because right now I just want to go outside and smash plates off the walls. Like,
and they would take me to the custody suite when they arrested me, you know, and keep me in a cell. And like, I mean, it's just, yeah, I just felt like I was in some kind of film, you know, I was just a normal Yorkshire girl from a normal family, and all I was ever trying to do was protect my child and expose corruption. And I think those two things just sent the state wild.
I need to dig into the psychology, like what was going on in your head at certain points, if you don't mind, right? You know, you're a woman who's grown up in a normal, sounds like a lovely upbringing, okay? And you're now having to deal with communicating to your family and friends everything that you're going through. How? I mean, you said that there's a bunch of people that turned their backs on you, right? People cannot process what they're being told. How common an effect is that with the other women you've spoken to, where this isolation and this outcasting seems to take place?
They do it to all the women. They do it to all the women. They get them isolated. They get their credibility. You know, they put us in the gutter. They put us in the gutter, literally, and they get us sacked so that we can't earn money. We've lost all our credibility. A lot of us are locked up, and we're just weakened. We're weakened so much that we can't fight. And so then nobody listens to us.
Do you know what
that's what they do. That's the tactics they use.
You know what we need, Victoria, right? And this is going to sound a bit mad. Like, see if we had a visual for this, right? Where we start off with when your daughter's said to you what's happened, where you've reported it to, where then it's went to within there, and where the failings have all taken place. And we see like a roadmap of failure with this, because there is going to be a system where if we have a visual that represents all of the departments that have failed, how you've been pushed from one place to another when gag orders have been put in place, and you show that visual to other survivors, I guarantee you we're 95% accurate every single time with the same model.
It's exactly the same model. It's exactly the same model. And it's when they switch the custody, it's always the same model.
See, well, the problem is, if this was Walmart we were talking about, and every day dozens of children were accidentally being taken away by dangerous men from Walmart, this would be nipped in the bud. Okay? This would be nipped in the bud. And we're not talking about a shopping center, we're talking about the government. So I believe they should be held to a higher standard. And
well, let me just tell you another little story. When I was in in prison. I was in closed prison.
It's really
And there's
hard
only
to
two.
imagine prison,
There's only
Victoria.
two categories for women. There's closed and open.
Okay.
In men, you've got A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Women, we're either a really dangerous criminal or we can be in open prison.
Okay.
So when you're in closed prison, all your phone calls are listened to. And so there's loads of other stories about prison, but this is one particular story that I want to tell you because this is how high up this goes. So I was in open prison, and then your phone calls aren't listened to in open prison. So I rang one of my journalist friends, and she said, "Oh, there's a journalist. They're wanting to do a story on women, family course, something." So anyway, so I spoke to the journalist. I had to give a full interview, and the next day there was a double page spread in the Daily Mail. Right. And the next thing, I'm in the governor's office. He said to me, he said, "You've got me into trouble." I said, "Oh, what have I done? What did I do? What did I do?" This article, you've upset the apple cart. Have I? Yeah, you've upset the apple cart. Okay. And he said, "It's come from Haigh. It's come from Haigh. They're not happy." And at the time, it was Theresa May. She was what was she at the time? Not before she was Prime Minister, she was the head of prisons. What's it called? So it came from her. Anyway,
Okay.
2 days later, I'm just minding my own business, in open prison. And suddenly, I don't know, 3 or 4 prison officers came and just said, "You've been sent back to closed conditions." And they'd been in my room, they'd packed all my things in bin liners, and they just literally put me in a van and sent me back to closed prison. Because when I was in closed prison, I couldn't really speak freely, and they read all your letters and everything. And another interesting story is that if you're not a violent criminal, you get 4.5 months at the end of your sentence out on tag. You have a tag around your ankle. And they said, we're not letting the prison said, "Oh, we're happy for you to go out on tag because you can't be rehabilitated because you haven't actually done anything to be rehabilitated for. You haven't committed a crime against anybody. You haven't harmed anybody in society. So you're a very low risk inmate, if you like." So then I went for my meeting to get my thing on my ankle to be let out, and they said, "We've got a problem. All the outside agencies, the police, social workers, everybody, they said that you're MAPA level 3 and that they don't want you to come out." And she looked at me, she says, we're struggling with this MAPA level 3 because that's reserved for paedophiles and murderers and really, really dangerous criminals, and you're on the same level. I went, "Oh, okay, right." Ooh. And I'm just sitting there thinking, same old, same old. They don't want me out because I can speak. So she said, "What they're saying is that you speak to the journalists and they want you to stop speaking to the press. So if you can promise us that, if you can convince them you're not going to speak to the press." Anyway, they didn't give me my tag, and I was quite devastated because I was all the press that Chris prisoner, obviously, I'm not a danger to a fly. So anyway, the governor, he called me into his office. Anyway, I can't keep you here any longer. I can't rehabilitate you. You don't do a thing wrong. And I can overrule those outside agencies. So I'm sending you out. Pretty much kicked me out of the prison with a tag. And that was the governor.
I just can't believe a woman like yourself served 3 years in prison, then got out of prison and was put on the same restrictions as a violent murderous offender. And we're expected to just take that as not full-on corruption.
Oh, it was very corrupt. But you see, the problem is the police were the high up. Well, the government, you know, Theresa May was involved. MPs were involved in my case because I was really trying to expose it, and the government don't want you to expose it because trafficking is you know, making a lot of money. And don't be fooled that these people coming over in boats, the government aren't getting some kickback there.
Listen,
Because
Ron's got a whole series of shows planned about the people coming over on the boats. Ron has solved the mystery of the people coming over on the boats. Ron has solved the mystery of the two-tiered policing. Ron has solved the mystery of it all, people. It's coming soon. But trust me, there is a prophet in our lands, Victoria. There is a new holy man that walks amongst us who is the reborn prophet of a certain faith. And it's very interesting when you look at how data points line up on timelines. And if you were going to raise an army, right? And I'm not saying that's what's happening at all, right? But if you've got boatloads of military-age men coming over on boats, okay, that facilitate some facilitate an extremist view, okay, and religion and old scripture are a spicy thing when they're in the hands of those who see it as a revolutionary mission. And we're going to cover that this week because it's gone a bit mad in the UK. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit caught up with the Diddy case this week. It's been all about Diddy. But I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, Victoria. And until we speak again,
can I just go, you know, the article that you've got on there, the horse trainer seeks redress. That article was written by Matt Lawton in the Times because he reports on sporting events, and the father of my daughter got banned from coaching children 2 years after I came out of prison. And the local authority asked UK Athletics not to publish his ban on coaching children because it might upset my daughter. I think what they really meant to say is because the mother will definitely find out he's committed an offence against a schoolgirl and we don't want this getting out, we need this covering up. And it took me 3 years to find out that he'd been banned from coaching children. So what they should have done is got my child out of his house. He was 12 at the time. If he's a danger to children, she's a child, surely. They did a risk assessment that she was safe to stay with him. And nobody knew he'd been banned. So if anybody was sleeping over at his house, none of the parents knew.
It makes perfect sense to put your child in the hand of a very sketchy sounding offender and give you 3 years in jail. Makes perfect sense, Victoria, right? When you talk crazy, and I'm sorry to shout, I'm sorry, right? The side chat know me, and this is why I can't be one of these PDF hunters in real life. This is why I've got to do it on the internet. If I see these people face to face, I'll have very coarse, I'll use swear words because we're on YouTube. And that's how we're going to summarize what would happen in that situation. Swearing. I'd use a lot of harsh language. But look. We need
Well,
to talk about this more.
I just,
We need to talk
I
about this
just,
more.
that I just think that if the comments now in the chat aren't me a liar and not calling me like, you know, back in the day, I was completely cancelled. You know, like now we know people get cancelled, you know, and the state
Yeah.
come after them and get arrested for all sorts of things. There's a few people now going through it, you know, but I was cancelled really. My life, my everything as I knew it, it was all gone. Everything was
Well, I'll
it
tell
was
you
just
this
all
right now,
taken
Victoria.
from me.
There has not been a single person speaking against you in the side chat. I'll tell you now, God help anyone that came into our side chat, my community, and spoke out against this. If anything, I am really shocked at how many people have been through what you're talking about. It's really scary. It's really scary, and we need to talk about this. This needs to be something that we focus on. Anyone else that you know that would want to be involved in any of this, Victoria, anonymously or
Well, all of us, but most of the others are gagged. And my friend, one of my best friends, she's been in prison over the last 10 years, probably 7 times.
7
Yeah, she was remanded for 6 months with no trial 1 year.
for breaching orders.
Yeah,
This is what you're saying.
yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah.
The system works, people. This is taxpayer money just being spent real well.
She's listening to this now, actually, I think. So she might have been putting things in the comments. I don't know.
If you are listening now, okay, and there's any way for anyone who's got a gag order to get their story out with all the names taken out, and I'll get AI to read it out, I'm happy. If anybody wants that, anything I can do to facilitate something against this madness, we are here to do that, Victoria. 100%. Oh man, I'm gonna have to go and walk around outside for a little while. This is a lot to process. 3 years. Your mate's been in prison 7 times. Nah.
I think at least 7 times.
Nah.
She got remanded for 6 months with no trial, and she wanted a trial, and then they just said you're not having a trial, and they just kicked her out of prison.
There was a guy that R-worded a woman down in England, right, and got given an ankle tag. An ankle tag, Victoria. And Victoria gets 3 years. Justice, people. Justice right there. Okay? Look at the way she's handling this horse. She must be a crazy lady. All right? Get her in jail for 3 years. It's just... It's a lot. And I just want to say, once I calm down, we need to keep this going, Victoria. We need to keep this going.
Well, you know, I'm still here and I'm still talking, and I do believe that, you know, like those poor post office people, eventually the truth does come out.
You know what? I know nothing about the post office story. I keep hearing people talking about the post office people. And I'm like, what the hell happened at the post office? Like, it was a huge, I know it was massive and it was a huge scandal, but I'm like, what actually happened? I managed to have, for some reason,
in a nutshell, I can really tell you really briefly, they put a new computer system throughout the whole of the post offices, and 600 postmasters were arrested and charged with fraud. So it looked like these post office masters were stealing money, and none of them did. And so they were all charged and they got put in prison and everything.
They got put in prison. And it was an IT failure. Somebody put a dot in the wrong place, right?
Oh, yeah, and the head of the whatever post office covered it up, so they knew there was a flaw.
And they all went to prison. That is wild. That is
they
wild.
got,
And I tell you
yeah,
what,
like 600 of them. And then there's a
guy.
guy, he's been knighted. He's called Sir John Bates, I think he's called. John Bates, Sir. And he was the one that led. You see, I can be the one that leads this, you see. I don't want to be knighted because I would never accept anything from the royal family. But anyway, I can lead this. I can be the one
100%.
to get these justice for these mothers, because I can't stand it. And that's why I'm still talking. I can't stand.
Get justice, or they'll throw us all in jail. It'll be one of the two, okay? But they will not silence us, okay? That they won't do. Oh man, this is,
well, you know, jail. It's not that bad. I kind of called it a health farm because I fasted a lot.
Because you're a nice lady, okay?
I fasted a lot. I couldn't eat the food.
Listen, okay, Victoria, I just want to say, have you seen a women's bathroom in a bar compared to a men's bathroom in a bar? Have you seen this? Have you seen how we treat facilities and how women treat facilities? I want you to just now imagine you're living in one of those two toilets, okay? All right? I'm just saying, one of them is a lot nicer than the other. So, yeah, we're mad. Honestly, we're all mental.
Yeah, you can't weaken. And my sense of humour has kept me, you know, a lot of my stories. I mean, I laugh at them. They're not funny really, but, you know, I just can't believe that I ended up I was a successful racehorse trainer. I was really well known. I was doing really well. And yeah.
Damn. 3 years. Do you know how many people I know that deserve 3 years in prison? Not many, actually, but how many people I've heard of that could do with 3 years in prison? A lot. It's so shocking. And I've heard people talk about this. I've heard people, and that's why I've heard people just talk about it briefly, because there's no way of understanding this in have you heard about this? And then 10 minutes later, the conversation's over. It's wild.
Well,
and
everybody, like people that first meet me now, you know, people that I meet new, well, I don't really go on about and think. If I do tell some people, they think I'm a gangster, you know, a gangster. And it gives me a bit of a kudos, you know.
Oh man. There's a really, really intense Netflix movie of your life waiting to happen. And it's just called Hypocrisy. That's what it would be called, because this is mad, right? I love the fact that you're a gangster now. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's going to be the name of my book. It was going to be called Stolen by the State, but it's going to be called Governments and Gangsters now.
It's just so twisted. Well, look, sadly, we're reaching the end of our show, but Victoria, let's get something else set up and planned. And we could even try and get a night planned where we get a panel of people, John and maybe Maggie as well, see how everybody's time slots are, and really get everyone's views put across, and the realities and the facts of this put across. Because the fact that there's gagging orders on all these women.
Well, Maggie knows that there's forced adoptions, because some of those victims, she knows that social workers took those babies into care. So yeah, when I was in prison, actually, there was a young girl with a half Asian, half Pakistani baby, in there, and I knew she was a victim. I knew, and she was a victim of the grooming gangs. She was in prison with her baby.
Jesus. Well, yeah, that is the sad reality that we are facing in this country, all around the world.
I've got lots and lots of stories, lots of other women, lots of information. You know, I have just scratched the surface on just my case. You know.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep scratching, if I'm being honest. And what are your Sunday nights like? Are you free on a Sunday evening? What's the Sunday night like for you?
Well, like every night. go to bed early. I just,
Listen, look, I'm a gangster criminal underworld mega boss. Okay, like I'm busy. Okay, damn. So
I like
yeah.
to I like to go to bed early because I ride racehorses in the morning. So
Oh, wow.
and I swim quite a lot, like intensively. So I do get tired. Like not. I like to go to bed early. So yeah.
Well,
In fact, it's past my bedtime. I'm off.
I was going to say we'll figure something out, but this can't be the last time we talk about this month. Like it can't. We need to keep this going because once the adrenaline and the rage settles down, I'll formulate questions that are being prevented by the rage and discovering all this knowledge. So, Victoria, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the side chat. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the Sean Atwood channel. Big shout out to Asha in the side chat over from Australia. You'll probably see her on the next live stream. And yeah, thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much to everyone. I'll see you guys in the next show. It'll be in about 5-10 minutes, all about the Diddy case. See you there. Thank you again, Victoria. Thank you.
Okay, bye.